So it's 1 o'clock? Oh, no, 12 o'clock.
Done already, huh?
Wishful thinking.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
So, meeting's adjourned. Obviously, call the Finance, Personnel and Development Committee to order on Wednesday, November the 2nd at 12 p.m. in fact. So the first item on the agenda is budget adjustments by Mr. Bill Sonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Or should we say Director of Excellence?
Oh, thank
Bill.
you. Thank you. All right, well, before you in your packet, you have some budget adjustments. These are much like ones we've done before, so kind of some housekeeping items. The first one is increasing the police forfeitures expenditure budget to match the revenue coming in from forfeiture, $1,606. So we're just increasing the revenue, increasing the expense, so a zero impact on the net budget. And then reallocating $40,000 from street maintenance seal coat over to the forestry area to manage Dutch elm. So we didn't spend everything in our street budget this year, which I know Guy wanted to. He wanted to throw on some extra projects. Time didn't allow for that, and now I'm glad it didn't, because we had more forestry issues to deal with, more Dutch elm disease, trees to take down. So you need to move that money over there for that. So it's just a lateral move within the general fund.
Bill, how many more trees did we have this year? Is it higher?
It is like
A lot?
between 20 to 30 higher, yeah.
Is that right?
And I suppose one other question on that. Are we planting as many trees just so that as we take down?
Well, given this was a higher than average year on removal, I don't know, because we typically just do 200 per year of
Right.
replacements, so I'm not sure if we replaced
As many as we
as
take
many,
down?
yeah. I can get a full report though on
Right.
that and get it out to you.
Yeah, so forestry is an issue for us. As you know, we've talked about grinding at the landfill. We're going to come back to you and talk more about that and what we want to do. And as far as dealing with the diseased trees, when we plan for the 2018 budget, we'll probably really have to do an increase there, because we're seeing now a couple of years where we've had to transfer money over to cover our extra costs. And once those trees are dying, if we want to maintain our trees and get those diseased ones out of here, we have to take them down. So it's done, we just now need to move the budget accordingly.
And then another thing with that, we need to plan for the emerald ash borer too.
Yeah, I was
It's
just gonna
migrating
ask
this
about the
way.
ash borer.
Yeah.
So we're full of good news today.
Yeah.
The last budget adjustment is increasing the library expenses for contributions received. So $5,787, and there's attached behind this memo showing where those donations came from. People giving to the library, this is just increasing the expense budget so Aaron can use those donations for what the donors had specified there for. So that's the list of budget adjustments, and I'll probably come with some more by the end of the year as we wrap things up.
On the library, do we, at what point do we kind of transfer money from kind of like the building donors to the project?
That is different donations. This is donations for operations,
Yeah.
books, supplies, and whatnot. We have a separate fund for library building project donations. So that's not any of these at this point. As we've received them, we've receipted those into that fund, because the council did pass a resolution establishing that fund and accepting those donations for that. So,
But the expenses that we're incurring on the project, I mean, they're being funded out of a general account today and then just debited? Or?
what we're doing right now is we're accumulating our costs in the capital project fund, our main capital project fund of the city, where we assign PI numbers. So when you as a council say initiate this PI number, permanent improvement number, then we start charging those costs. They're not funded yet.
Right.
So we're in essence holding them in that capital project fund. So then upon a successful moving forward with the project, issue bonds for that, as well as use the cash we have on hand. Because we're of course not going to bond for funds we have on hand. So if you have a project level here, reduce it by cash on hand, bond for the net, fund those expenses then at that time.
Right. Any other questions of Bill? Wayne? Since I've got a crick my neck to the left.
Yeah. No
Ben?
questions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Well, okay, then, do we have a motion to accept Bill's recommendations? Thank you, Jim. We have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, same sign. Okay, for that to be on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Right. Moving on to item 2, which would be contracting for actuary study by Bill Sumner. Recommendation to the council to approve the city contract in the actuary study.
Yes, we have 2 actuarial valuations to do, one for the city and one for the Fergus Falls Fire Relief. These are driven by GASB statements, Governmental Accounting Standards statements. In other words, that's the law that oversees our governmental accounting. And so the one for the city, it's for post-employment benefits to employees. And what that amounts to for the city is, according to state law, retirees are able to stay on our health insurance plans at 100% at the employee's cost. But there is something called an implicit rate subsidy that gets calculated by the actuary for this. And in essence, everyone else's premiums have to be a little bit higher to fund that, to keep them on, because we're all in one pool. So they have to calculate that for us. We have to do that every 3 years. The estimated cost for that is between $2,900 and $3,200 for that evaluation. And then for the fire relief, we have to do that actuarial evaluation every 2 years. This is according to GASB Statement 67. And if we want to maintain our comprehensive annual report, which is that certificate of achievement that we let you know about, we have to have a clean opinion on that. And in order to get that clean opinion, we have to include this actuarial valuation in that. So it's valuing what the liability of that fire relief pension plan is. So, and that would be at a cost of $2,500 to $3,000, and then $1,000 for the off year to roll that forward for 2018. Now these fees are the same as what we did the last time we did both of these actuarial studies, so they have not increased their fees. Back at that time, we went out for a couple of quotes. There's basically 2 firms in the state of Minnesota. Hildy Incorporated and Van Iworth is the other one. And we chose Hildy, and we've been working with them for a number of years. So I'm confident that their prices are good, considering they haven't increased them as well. So that's my recommendation.
Any questions of Bill?
I'll offer a motion, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, Wayne. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Okay, for that to be on the consent agenda.
Yep.
Moving on. Bill, if you would like to just stay up there,
Sounds good?
then you can talk about cooperative purchasing program.
Yeah.
Recommendation to the council to approve a contract to join the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program.
So you may ask, what is the Houston-Galveston Area Council?
What is
So-
a Houston?
There you go.
Sounds like it's down in Texas.
It is, and I looked into this as well, because I hadn't heard of it before, but our fire chief brought this forward. Our fire department is a recipient of a grant that's going to fund the majority of our new SCBA's, and Sparky will talk about that at the second half of this item. But of course, we have to abide by bidding laws, state of Minnesota bidding laws, and also procurement laws according to the federal government when you're receiving a federal grant. And you can do that 2 ways. We can go out on sealed bids ourselves, or we can go through a cooperative purchasing program like the state of Minnesota state contract, like Country Service Co-op has cooperative purchasing. Those organizations go out and do the bidding for us, get us the best prices, and then we can just go in and select that equipment. Sparky has checked with both of those 2 organizations, the state and Lakes Country Service, and they don't have this particular equipment. So he's been recommended by other cities in Minnesota that have worked with this Houston-Galveston Area Council, their cooperative purchasing program. I checked with the League of Minnesota Cities and our city attorney, And their opinion is this qualifies under Minnesota state statute. So item number 1 would be entering into this contract with that group in order to allow us to do purchasing through them for these fire department SCBA's, as well as other things for public works, and the police department could come in the future that we're not even aware of at this time. So that's my first recommendation, is that we approve that contract. So
I would offer that recommendation that we approve that contract, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim.
Is there a, Bill, is there a cost to join this group?
No.
Okay.
So we're just joining, and then you can start shopping, and that's where we'll call Sparky up.
Then, the other question I have is that the contract, it says the performance period is from 1/1/2016 to 12/31/2016. Is there?
But it's ongoing, isn't it? Yeah, it's
So
ongoing.
it's, right, okay,
So it'll be perpetual after that unless we end it,
unless you
so.
withdraw. Okay, any other questions on Bill's portion of it, or do you want to vote at this point on the actual joining of the co-op? Would you like to hear about scuba masks?
Scuba.
So, okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, same sign. Motion is approved. Consent agenda for that portion of it.
Okay.
And now we'll call on Mr. Mark Hovland to discuss masks.
Hey, we'll give Bill a break here.
Oh,
That's good.
We need to replace our self-contained breathing apparatus. That's what the firefighter wears to go fight a fire. And when we purchased our original packs that we have now was through a fire grant, and that was in 2003. And so we applied the last 2 years, and we were turned down the first year, but the second year now we've been awarded this Fire Act grant, which is competitive nationwide. And publicly, I'd like to thank Ryan Miller, because we took our original grant and he reviewed it for us, made some suggestions, and lo and behold, we were accepted. So hats off to Ryan for helping us and do that. So with the process that we got notified that we were awarded the grant, I went together and got a committee together, and we brought in vendors, reviewed our packs of the different brands, and we narrowed it down to one company, MSA, which you had the flyer on. So this purchase price is going to be over $200,000, and our grant is for $175,000, and we have to do a 5% match, which is equal to $8,000. And forgive me, I don't have my papers right with me, but overall, we're going to be spending about $35,000, so we were well above our award. And I am in contact with FEMA, because when we wrote our initial grant, we were asking about $7,200 per pack, and they awarded us $6,000. And I'm asking, can they bump that up to $650 or whatever? So hopefully we'll get a little bit more money, but if not, we do have money in our truck fund that would help pay for this. The reason we have to do this is in 2018, all our cylinders that we wear, the harness is okay, but the cylinders are outdated. We got to throw them away and buy new ones, so that's a huge cost. Plus the actual pack, the regulator and the alarms is starting to nickel and dime us, and the manufacturer doesn't tell us that they quit making parts, so parts availability is getting tough. So it goes back to we need to purchase new. The one that we are selecting is, I'll say, in this Houston Galveston contract, it's not the cheapest model, but it gives us the flexibility of future Bluetooth for our radios. The firefighter wearing the mask and talk on a radio without having to click his mic. And also I can be outside with my iPad, hit a button that sends an alert to have everybody evacuate. So just the technology of this pack is just outstanding. So with that, I would like to proceed with buying 30 packs SCBA's for the fire department, and I'll open up to any other questions.
anybody got any questions of Sparky?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
It, Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, same sign. motion is approved. We'll put it on the consent agenda. I think, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, when you get sort of 18% free money,
Yeah.
I mean, when you're only matching 18% for a $200,000 purchase, it's a good deal.
Thanks, Mark.
We need more of those. Bill.
We'll keep Ryan working on that.
Item number 4, a change of face, would be PI 9697, awarding the bid by Brian, and recommendation to the council to award the bid for 9697, the City Hall lobby remodeling project.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon. On October 13th, we opened sealed bids for this City Hall lobby remodel project. Received a total of 4 bids. J.S. Cates Construction Incorporated was the apparent low bidder at that time. They submitted a base bid amount of $158,000. The architect's estimate to complete this work was ranged about $132,000. I've included the bid abstract from the bid opening in your packet. I'd like to note, prior to the bid opening, alternate 4 was issued to all potential bidders. It addressed a material specification change in regards to the bullet-resistant glazing. That change, which was noted by the low bidder 1 and 2, resulted in a deduct of approximately $14,000 from the base bid amounts. Therefore, Sulch & Associates completed the post-bid review, reviewed all the bids, and has provided their award recommendation letter detailing some of this information. If awarded, this remodeling project could begin potentially mid-January, depending on schedules and everything, and be substantially completed this spring. As stated before, this project will be funded through the general government buildings budget and the remaining proceeds from the 2012 capital improvement plan bond that was used to fund the police department. Sufficient funds are available to proceed with this project, so therefore I'm requesting award recommendation to J.S. Cates Construction in the amount of $143,856 for public improvement 9697.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I missed the part, did, when you said 1 and 2 both had the deduct of approximately 14,000?
Yes.
Was
So-
1 Comstock?
Yes.
And where's J.S. Cates out
I
of?
believe they're out of Fargo.
So okay, my question is, it's $400 difference, right?
Yes, between the first and low. Yes, correct.
Okay, seems to me like if we get able to award a local, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking out loud here, but if we were able to award a local contractor for $400, that's probably within the, we can award the losses, we can, it's low responsible bidder, is that?
As Bill indicated previously and everything, we have statutory requirements for competitive bidding requirements. And that was the price submitted and everything. Unfortunately, it's up for the recommendation. We did do an evaluation of the bids to see if there was significant enough evidence reviewing those bids, if we could maybe reject them and re-advertise, but there's not anything significant enough to justify that, really, so.
I'm just trying to think, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Isn't there some sort of, isn't there a clause that you can justify a local bidder?
You're probably thinking of, and you probably know more about this than I do, but the best value contracting, right? But you have to lay out all that evaluation criteria before you issue request for bids, I believe.
Yeah, yes, there's different delivery methods for project delivery. This is a design, bid, and then award type of setup that we're doing. This is how we do all of our projects. And that's with those monetary thresholds, which determines anything over $100,000, we're required to do the competitive bidding.
Sure.
And we have to advertise regionally, and we do obviously locally too. But
Sure. So
We could have, on Monday, Rolf just weigh in on that for you too, to give you, we know what you're saying. We would.
obviously, we have to follow the law.
We have
But
to
at the
follow
same
the
time-
law, and
$400.
Yeah.
it seems so close,
Yeah. But
yet the law is taking the lowest
The reality
responsible
is we
bidder.
asked for the lowest bid, and the lowest
Right.
bid is $400 less than the next bid.
Yeah.
Maybe we could at least address that on Monday night.
yeah, we could certainly.
We'll have Rolf.
Have Rolf
We
just
can have
to
Rolf
leave.
review it and everything.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys, I know you guys thought about this too, it's not.
Yep.
so, anyway,
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, we do, but we operate what we can do on the requirements. So.
Sure.
So in that case, then we'll kind of just move on and just put
Just
that
have
on
a
the agenda so
recommendation
we
to
can
have Rolf let us know our options for accepting bids on that project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
I don't think we've had action on that item at all.
Do you want an action?
I'll make a recommendation that we ask Rolf at the Monday meeting to give our options regarding the bids for this project, and then move forward accordingly.
And approve at that time.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of asking Rolf for recommendation on the difference on the bids and approve it based upon his input? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. And obviously we'll leave that on the agenda. In that case, now we come to item 5, which would be Drug Task Force Joint Powers Agreement by Carl Bergam, and recommendation to the council to enter into the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The city's been involved with West Central Minnesota Drug and Violent Crime Task Force. Oh gosh, I'm guessing close to 30 years. We're coming up to a new grant cycle that requires a joint powers agreement as well as the addition of another city, the city of Detroit Lakes. There's nothing new in the agreement in and of itself. The only thing is we need a signed copy of the joint powers agreement to be submitted for the new grant cycle.
Does anybody have any questions of Kyle?
Kyle, do we have an officer involved in that?
Yes, we do. We've, for the last 6 years or so, we've had 3 different officers assigned over that time period, and we currently do have a member assigned as well as Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office does as well.
Would it be possible on it when we type or when we sign this deal to actually, I don't find Fergus, but there's nothing on the signature page that kind of indicates what the document is.
Sure.
I wonder if it's possible that we could, when we sign the document, that we make reference to the actual document.
I think we could put a header or a footer on
Yeah.
the signature, or the document itself is actually generated out at Alexandria, but I can make a request that,
Just so that, no, I mean, if somebody gets hold of this, it's got the mayor's and the city administrator's signature on it, and they could apply it to any contract or anything. And the next thing I know, Bill will be driving a Ferrari, so.
Foiled again.
I'll make a motion, we renew our contract.
Right.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Put that on the consent agenda.
So,
And then we can move on to Kyle again with the Minnesota Criminal Justice Data Network Joint Powers Agreement and recommendation to the city to enter into another agreement.
okay, thank you. There's actually 5 different actions, I think. Maybe 4 of the 5 can be wrapped into one. The first 4 are a joint powers agreement between the city and the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and a subscribers agreement. So there's a total of 4 documents. 2 are for the police department, 2 are for the city attorney's office. So the police department wants a joint powers agreement with the BCA, and they will also sign a subscribers agreement. And the city attorney's office will do the same. They'll enter into a joint powers agreement and sign the subscribers agreement. So I think the first recommendation I would have is a resolution authorizing the city or the mayor and the city administrator to sign the joint powers agreement between the city entities and the state of Minnesota for the Criminal Justice Data Network.
Any recommendation on that?
I'll offer that, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
I'll second.
thank you, Jim. So we have a recommendation on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against, same sign. Motion is approved.
And then the last item, and I apologize, this is what was put on your desk. It's,
Just a minute, on a second, do you want a resolution isn't it, for each document, or,
I think one
One's
for
fine.
all four
Okay.
would be, yeah.
I think you're right. Move on, Cal.
And then what was put on your desk today, it relates to the previous item. However, this is an agreement between the city and the Minnesota District Courts. And it's basically just a resolution authorizing the authority to access the Minnesota government access accounts. It's for court filings. Everything is done electronically now. And basically, we just have to have a resolution authorizing the city attorney's office to have access to that system.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion, but I have a question also. If you want
I'll
to take a
second.
second, okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Is there any budgetary impact on this one, Kyle, at all, or?
I don't, on this one, I'm not 100% sure of. I don't believe there is. This is really kind of a transition from a system we call Odyssey now, and they're changing the system to this MGA. Along with the other program, or the previous one, I think I put down $1,200 a year is what we've been paying historically. I think when I look through the documents, it's maybe $1,500 a year. So if there is any cost, it's gonna be relatively minimal, and it's probably an expense that we're already incurring.
Already in the budget.
Under a differently named program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Kyle? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Motion is approved. Everybody happy with it on the consent agenda? Item 7 would be the Economic Development Services Agreement, and I'll call upon Andrew.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Before you, you have a new Economic Development Services Agreement between the Economic Improvement Commission and the City of Fergus Falls. The agreements are relatively similar with two major changes. The first one being that the new agreement specifies that the contribution to the EIC will not exceed $50,000 on an annual basis, and that is to become compliant with state statute, which caps the amount that the city can contribute to the Economic Improvement Commission at the $50,000 mark. And then the other one being that the executive director services shall be provided by the city with our newly formed economic development director position, which is something you guys will be taking action on in a subsequent meeting, but more or less, Amy Baldwin will become a city employee with this new agreement, given the fact that we can't contribute more than $50,000 a year to the EIC, which obviously wouldn't get us very far if we had to cover Amy's compensation and the other staff member from the EIC under that. So as a result, we need to sign a new service agreement with the EIC as a city, and then, like I said, you'll see the approval for Amy's position at a later date here in November.
Any questions on that? If not, do we have a recommendation?
I'll offer that, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, Wayne. Do we have a second? Thank you, Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Motion is approved. On the consent agenda, David Peel? It's going to come up again in November.
I think so.
Right, moving on to item 8, which would be a property deeded to the city by April, and a recommendation to the council to accept 2 properties being deeded to the city, 502 South Sheridan and 315 East Vassar.
So again, in efforts to clean up some of our problematic properties or properties that have outlived their life expectancy, we've taken the approach either to talk to the individuals that own the property, and these 2 properties have come to us, and the individuals have indicated that they'd like to deed the properties to the city. So what you're looking at is a basement corner. Page 3 it, please, or? There. So you can see this was in the wintertime. There's ice, mold growing on the ductwork. The electrical needs a little bit of work.
These look like pretty good gifts.
So the intention here too is that we'd accept this property and And we need to set a resolution to accept these properties in order to do demolition and then sell the properties as well.
April, what was, if you go back, what was that? Is that like a
That
porch or
is-
what is that? Or a roof or?
It's a garage roof that's been modified into a deck.
Okay.
And as you can see, it's,
And which one is this that we're
this
looking
is
at?
502 South Sheridan.
Okay.
Have we got to get to the good one here?
So just so you're familiar with the property, I just wanted to present some pictures so you know what kind of properties we're acquiring here and that these would be intended for demolition. And then I'll bring up the other property. This is 315 East Vassa. Shingles, excessive storage, no fascia, soffit, mold and deterioration in the interior of the porch, excessive storage, foundation starting to settle, move. These step structures, they're rotten, you can't stand on them. You know, this is a property that came to us, concerns from the neighborhood, reached out to the owner, and the owner said, has indicated she's beyond her means to address it on her own, and that she would deed it over to the city and allow us to do the demolition and recover costs.
Do you have any questions of April?
April,
Mr.
should I talk a little bit about how well?
Yes, yes, yes.
Could I ask a question of April first, Mr. Chair? April, is this one on Vassa, is it in bad enough shape that it needs to be demoed? Okay. I'm not familiar, I mean, just from the pictures
Do you want to go on a
itself.
tour? I sure can take you.
I'll take your word for it. I just, from the photos, it didn't look as bad as the first one. That's why I just wanted to ask the questions.
And that's part of it. It can be deceiving from the outside, but once you get inside, you know, ongoing deterioration, lack of maintenance, you know.
Electrical,
elements.
plumbing.
In this case, we weren't able to get inside. It was in such
Yeah,
bad
there's so
shape.
Oh,
much,
okay, all right.
excessive storage in this structure that, you know, there also is a fire hazard, so.
Oh, okay.
We don't want our fire department
Right,
going in.
understood, yeah, okay,
Mr.
thank
Chair.
you.
So is, and you and I, April, spoke about different properties this morning, but, so you're hoping that, yeah, it's $10,000 to $15,000 in lot value once it's cleared off and
Yep,
hoping
and
that.
I'm gonna pull Bill in on that note because he'd be able to address the financial side of how this process would work since we're getting it deeded to us.
Sure, then just one more question for April. How many, now that you've been on a while, I know you're trying to take care of some of these properties that really need to be taken care of. How many do you think are out there still?
I laugh, I shouldn't laugh, but there's a significant amount of properties in the city of Fergus Falls that just have outlived their life. We live in a community where the average age home is 1960s or older, ones that have survived the cyclone. There's been a lot of foreclosures also in the city of Fergus Falls. I think there's currently about 35 or more within the city of Fergus Falls. There are properties that people have owned and we haven't discovered yet that they've walked away from. And a lot of times we don't catch those because the neighborhood has just taken it upon themselves to mow, trim,
Sure.
until after 5 years of mowing, trimming, taking care of the property, the neighbor says, okay, I'm sick of doing this, and they reach out to our department.
Well, I do commend both Kyle and April because I know it's not an easy job, but we're going
And-
after some of these
and we're
properties. And
also
some of these
seeing-
neighborhoods, it's dragging the entire neighborhood
And
down.
we're also seeing squatters, people that just take it upon themselves to move into a residence, kind of make it their home, and they actually have some rights, and they have to go through the eviction process to get those individuals out of that property.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Jim?
We just ripped down the old American Legion out there. We tore it down and it looks
It looks great.
much better.
Yes, so it's coming, it's
Yeah.
baby steps, and like I stated before, we're addressing the low-lying fruit first.
Could I, Mr. Chair, just one last question for April. Do you anticipate that these would be demoed yet this fall, or?
That is our hope, since
Okay.
that they would be coming to the possession, so we would have city staff take care of the demolition.
Okay, thanks.
So the cost related to this, that's one thing we've talked a lot about. You have two different types of scenarios. One where you acquire these properties, You invest money in cleaning them up with the city's goal to resell them and recover your costs. In that instance, so as we're incurring those costs, let's say it's $10,000 to demo the building, get it cleaned up, $15,000, we would actually put that into an asset account called property held for resale, so it wouldn't hit an expense budget at this time. In essence, we'd be changing cash for another type of asset, we'd be changing it over to land held for resale then. Then when the time comes when you sell it, if you sell it at a gain or a loss, that's when then we would hit the budget in that year. If we wound up, spending 15 on it, only sold it for 12, then you'd have 3,000 that would hit April's budget for that. If we have other property where we're just gonna go in, clean it up or whatnot, and we have the risk of not collecting that and it's not our property, and we're not holding something for resale, then those expenses would hit right away that year. So as these two, city will own them, our intention to sell them, recover our costs, therefore we really don't have a budgetary impact at this point until we see how it all shakes out. And this is new for us, but as we all see, I think it's important that we venture down this road and clean up some of that, so.
Do you know if there's any back taxes owed on them?
On the 502 South Sheridan, we worked with them and they were trying to resell it themselves, so there's no back taxes or anything on that. They just decided that the cost to renovate it and bring it up to compliance outweighed the cost to deed it over to the city and allow us to demo it and recover our costs through the sale of the lot. 315 East Vasa, there's a $500 back tax amount for this year.
It's not too ugly.
No, it's very, it's actually less than the amount back taxes on 1115 North Oak that we just acquired.
Okay.
If you just want to address too, maybe with the council, some of the ones that we've acquired through tax forfeiture and how that process plays out a little differently. I'm thinking of Riverside Court.
Yeah, so there are various options. I've been asked this question of how do we address this problem? Can we just condemn? Condemnation is a little bit more lengthy process, so that's why I'm saying these are the simple ones. Trying to work with the owner, getting them to deed over to us. The other route where we've had success is on Riverside Court. The address is escaping me, but I'm picturing it in my head. That was a property that went through the forfeiture process. So we worked with the county to work out an agreement that the city deemed the property hazardous, unlivable, and the cost to renovate that as well exceeded the cost for demolition, and to allow the sale of the lot, but the condition the county put on the sale was that the dwelling would be removed from that site upon the purchase. So we've taken some different avenues to try and get some properties cleaned up and not allow them to come back into our community as houses that just get a little bit of work done, but major issues aren't addressed.
Right. Do we have a recommendation on this? I don't think we.
I'll offer a recommendation to the council to accept these two properties.
Yeah, and Jim will second it.
Can I ask one more?
Question, Mr. Chair. April, do you anticipate that these would be listed immediately, the lots would be listed immediately upon demolition being
Demolition,
completed?
That's our desire, yes.
Okay, so probably this winter yet, maybe even, or
ask
by
Guy
spring for
what
sure?
His staff's availability is, but that is our intention, is to move
We'll
as
try to
quickly
get
as
'em
we
down.
can.
Okay, all right.
And I think a question had been asked about some of the nonprofits in town too, and I have reached out to them as well, and they understand that the city needs to recover our costs as well.
Sure.
So they would still be interested in the lots,
Mhm.
and wouldn't deter them from obtaining them.
Okay.
and
It is,
constructing.
it is
Thanks.
bonfire night on November the 5th for Guy Fawkes, so there's an opportunity for you, Guy.
Sparky? No.
And yes, since you mentioned that, we do have a property owner in town, it's a commercial building that has reached out to the fire department for a controlled burn.
Right.
So, like I said, we're seeing slowly.
Guy, on these two properties, will we remove those houses ourselves? Or?
Yeah, that's the plan, yeah. These two and then the one on Oak Street, 1115, yeah.
Any further questions of April, Bill or Guy? If not, call for the motion, go for the question. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Motion is approved. You're happy with it on the consent agenda? Then I believe we have an additional item, number 9, which would be a library update from Aaron.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of the Library Renewal Project Fundraising Committee. They wanted to provide an update to the Finance Committee on the fundraising, and they recently met and reviewed the donations of cash and pledges, and are excited to announce that in the last 2 weeks, new pledges have boosted the fundraising effort past the previously reported 2.2 million to over 2.4 million. And over 75 individual donors have been joined by recent pledges from the Dell Trust, the Frank Bedeen Charitable Trust, the Lundeen Foundation, Otter Tail Corporation, and Otter Tail Power Company to reach the new milestone. So they wanted to pass that information along to the Finance Committee.
That's great. Thank you.
Any questions of April, of Aaron at this time? If not, there's nothing obviously to do on that. Anything
Aaron.
else to bring before the Finance Committee? Wayne, would you like to say anything?
No, sir.
Nothing else? In that case, meeting is adjourned.